Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good weekend and welcome back to Far Cry 6, where this week I'm gonna go easy on the game. I feel like, it's certainly good comedy value, but I have been relentlessly picking on this game for the last couple of months, and while it does kind of deserve it, I think it's time I cut the game some slack. So starting today, I'm gonna just try to roll with the minor elements of stupidity that Far Cry 6 seems to demonstrate at every turn. If it does anything majorly stupid though, all bets are off. And since I'm working for Lucky Mama today and not Yelena, there's an excellent chance that major acts of stupidity will be kept to a bare minimum. Fingers crossed.
When I was a girl, the air here used to smell like the ocean. But the foreign corporations came, poisoned everything. Back in '67, we kicked them out. For decades, you could breathe the air. Then Espinosa started to sell off our industries. Then Anton took over. He opened the door for that Yankee McKay. His operation produces the poison needed to make Viviro. And the pipeline here is a vital part of that cancer treatment. Lorenzo showed me the photographs you took of their research. Disgusting. So Yelena and I came up with a plan to cripple production of Castillo's wonder drug. Think of that Yankee's main chemical plant like a heart, and all these pipes are like arteries. Cut the arteries, and the heart goes into a catastrophic state. So follow the pipes, Danny. Destroy the substations, and you'll create a pressure overload at the plant. That's when Yelena will access their computers, and will be able to kill McKay's poison operation for good.
Okay, so we're hitting McKay's chemical pipelines.
This is a big mission, and you're not alone.
Really? Not alone. Do you want to put money on that? How many other rebels are going to be backing me up on this mission then? Less than one? Oh, Jingles, let it go. I'm already getting off to a bad start. Okay, fine. We'll let that one roll.
Danny, find the control panels. You can overload the poison silos from there.
Or I could just shoot them.
Being a guerrilla is about precision. Sloppy work leads to too many corpses.
But if we're going to be overloading the pipelines so that they burst like that one which I did on the way here, not realising it was going to be part of the next mission anyway, what do you care if I shoot them? There's going to be a poison spill either way. Also, look, I'm sorry, I realise we're getting off to a bad start, but you're just going to have to let me have this one. This is poison gas, Mama. You haven't even bothered to check which way the wind's blowing. I mean, there could be a farm 200 metres to the left. Isn't it better to have the gas in the pipes and containers than just going wherever the wind blows it? I'm overthinking this again, aren't I? Alright, fine. Whatever.
Okay, first up station down.
You know, I used to watch El Tigre's back when he was in the field.
Well, I'm glad you're watching mine.
I'm beginning to fear that I may have made an extremely hasty promise at the start of this video.
Danny, did El Tigre ever tell you about Lobo?
A little. Said he was killed in combat. Why?
You remind me of him. Clara's the politician. But you are a true guerrilla. Like Lobo, the lone wolf.
I don't like worrying about others. Slows me down.
But when the lone wolf makes the big kill, he doesn't like to share the spoils.
Get me out of here!
Be careful, Danny.
Why are you telling me this?
Come here,
Hello?
please.
Hello? Inga.
Well, I'm sure whatever Lucky Mama's trying to tell us is very important, and she will fill us in on further... Ooh, a helicopter. It's only a light helicopter, but it does have machine guns and rocket pods. Although I have been burned before on the subject of helicopters armed with machine guns and rocket pods that are completely incapable of doing damage to, well, anything other than very specific objects, but I have been able to knock out these pipes and containers using regular machine gun bullets, so Rocket pods should be able to get the job done. Just follow the pipeline to the next substation. Do not kill civilians or the... What are civilians doing in there? Well, I suppose the damage is done now. I'm going to hose the place down with rockets, so that should have taken care of... Except it hasn't taken care of all resistance. All the soldiers are still alive. All the civilians were killed, but all of the soldiers are still alive. Wow. Really? Let it go, Jingles. Okay, fine. Whatever. We'll do this the old-fashioned way. Jeez. Look, the civilian might have just gotten lucky. I don't know. We'll let that one go. More troops. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Up top. On the ridge. Sniper. Gotcha. And another sniper over there. Hold still. Oh, somebody else. On the ridge. Take him out while the sniper's getting it. Oh, great. It's an engineer. He can deploy the shield. Got him. I do have one question about this whole situation. Look at the number of troops that survived this entire place being bathed in 57mm rockets and 12.7mm machine gun bullets. I'm not even sure I took a single one out with a rocket and machine gun attack. But I killed all the civilians. What were the odds of that? It's not a criticism, okay? I'm well aware of what I said at the start of this video. It's not a criticism. It's not completely outside the realms of possibility that I might have just gotten lucky that way. But it is rather funny, and I just thought it was worth pointing out. Man, this game does not make it easy, does it? And I don't appear to have destroyed any of the infrastructure either. Man, talk about rotten luck. Okay, let's find the valves. There'll be something up here. No, nothing there. Ah, that looks like a pump room. Or an outstation or something. Yep, this will be it. And there they are. Number 3. Number 2. And number 1. I do have to say, I really don't think much of the safety protocols in this place. Billy McKay was cutting a few corners when he was laying down his pipeline and pump station infrastructure.
Another artery cut. Now keep cutting.
I should have been a surgeon.
I wouldn't go that far.
There's no way he would have gotten away with this level of shoddy engineering in Western Europe or North America.
Danny, I want to apologize for how I treated you when we first met. I was wrong about you.
No need to apologize.
I've just seen enough blood to last 3 lifetimes. And enough guerrillas who enjoyed spilling it. When you showed up, you had trouble written all over you. But El Tigre, he always knew a true guerrilla at first glance. He told me if anyone could save Yara, it was you. Just thought you should know.
Libertad could use you, Lucky. Lara could learn a lot from you.
Libertad, la moral. Just a club, Danny. I fight for Yara. No one else.
I have to say, it is most unlike a Western chemical firm to skimp on safety protocols when building infrastructure in a third world country. And quite frankly, I find the whole suggestion that Western chemical companies would cut corners as far as safety protocols are concerned and risk potentially disastrous chemical leaks that could lead to the deaths of thousands of locals and simply not care because, well, brown people can't afford expensive white lawyers. I find the whole suggestion quite offensive. They would never do that. Well, not again anyway. All joking aside, because this isn't a remotely funny topic, I am of course referring to the disastrous chemical leak at the Union Carbide chemical plant near Bhopal in India in 1984 that resulted in tens of thousands of deaths, a disproportionate number of them children, because the chemicals that were released had twice the density of air, so the closer you were to the ground, the more of it you inhaled, and the faster you died. The thing about the Union Carbide chemical disaster in India in 1984, however, was that it was caused by negligence, underinvestment in safety, poor design, and just general sloppy and lackadaisical management. Although if you listen to Union Carbide Chemicals themselves, although they are now owned by the American Dow Chemical Company, if you listen to them, they still to this day insist that it was sabotage. Why sabotage? What's wrong with good old-fashioned industrial negligence? Well, call me a wizened old cynic here, but I can't help but feel that the fact that if it is sabotage and not corporate negligence, you don't have to pay out quite as much money and your CEO doesn't have to go on trial for manslaughter. Perish the thought of our CEOs being held responsible for the actions of the companies that they manage. If that were the case, they might actually start to take an interest in ensuring that their companies don't accidentally kill tens of thousands of people. I mean, come on, think about it for a minute. We don't go building these chemical plants in countries like India or Yara here so we can spend more money on infrastructure, maintenance and wages. Dow Chemicals only made $62 billion in the 2017 financial year. Maintenance and safety is expensive. Of course, what we're doing here is sabotage. And I can't help but wonder if Lucky Mama hasn't quite thought this one through. Because, I mean, I'm no chemistry professor. And I'm pretty sure that Lucky Mama isn't a chemistry professor either. And while this isn't exactly a heavily populated area, it is kind of rural, while Bhopal in India in 1984 wasn't exactly a heavily populated area either. And tens of thousands died, and 700,000 were injured. And while I'm not suggesting that we're about to trigger a disaster on the scale of Bhopal in India in 1984, this is a rural area after all. It doesn't have the population density of the town of Bhopal or its surrounding farms. There are surrounding farms. And even if we assume that the toxic clouds that we're about to release don't actually kill anybody because, oh, I don't know, maybe it's a national holiday today and all of the farm workers are at the seaside building sandcastles and by some miracle get away without being gassed on their farms. The farms are still there. And what do you grow on farms? Food for the rest of the population of the island. And we're about to douse them all in toxic chemicals. I really don't think Mama's thought this one through. I'm fucking positive the game's developers haven't. Am I just reading too much into this again? You have to admit, it does seem logical though, doesn't it? I mean, feel free, go ahead, try to pick out a flaw in my logic. We've got all these chemicals, and they are nasty chemicals. I mean, if exposure doesn't kill you outright, it gives you cancer. There's a reason why Castillo has to send his bully boys around every growing season in order to recruit more workers. Because all of his plantation workers keep dying off, either to direct exposure or cancer. The game itself has established this. Do we really want to be releasing these chemicals into the environment?
Danny, I never told anyone this.
¿Qué?
El Tigre killed Lobo.
De pinga.
Back in 67, they led the final attack together. But Lobo wanted Yara all for himself. Once they took Esperanza, his plan was to take down Santos. Lobo would have undone everything we fought for. Instead of peace, he would have started a civil war. Lobo was a traitor, Danny. He left El Tigre no choice. A secret no Yaran can ever know.
Why are you telling me this?
Because you remind me of Lobo. You might be a hero now. You might think you would never betray Yara. But once you're on the throne, it will change you.
I have no desire to rule Yara, Lucky.
Just know that if I must, I won't hesitate to pull that trigger. Just like El Tigre, he was the real legend of 67. And he never forgave himself for it.
Then again, maybe I'm not giving the developers enough credit because Mama is the educated character here. I don't know if she actually has a medical degree, but she certainly knows medicine, so I was prepared to give her the benefit of the doubt. Until I started approaching McKay's chemical plant and saw an extremely ominous-looking red toxic cloud. You see, what Mama's actual plan was right? What she intended to do in blowing up all of these substations and pipelines was to create an overpressure wave back up the pipeline towards the main chemical plant. Now, leaving aside the whole fluid dynamics and engineering question of whether or not this is actually possible, like I said, we're going to cut them some slack and we'll let them have that one. Leaving aside the extremely unlikely suggestion that nobody in that chemical plant was capable of looking at a pressure gauge and turning the pumps off, again, we'll let them have that one. What I want to focus on here is the fact that that catastrophic toxic chemical leak, that's spraying poison gas, and if it doesn't kill you through immediate exposure, will kill you through cancer. That is basically contaminating the entirety of the island of Yara downwind from the chemical plant. It's going to get into the crops, it's going to get into the water. Fun and games for everybody for generations to come. Look, it's killing the crocodiles. What's this? Yeah, dead wildlife everywhere. It's not as if the developers can claim ignorance of what's happening here. They're showing it to us with all of the dead wildlife. I'm not sure why I haven't fallen over and died yet, and I'm pretty sure that chemical plant is still somehow going to be full of guards without gas masks who haven't fallen over and died yet as well, but that's an entirely different question. My point here is that this is the outcome that Mama wanted. The fuck is wrong with her?
Lucky, I'm at the plant. Everyone's shitting themselves.
Thanks to you. Engineers are trying to repair the chemical basins. Find the control room, Danny. Yelena's waiting to be patched into the computers. Once we have access.
Heart attack. Got it.
Oh, wait, no, it's okay. Everybody relax. Yelena's getting involved. Oh, God, we're all gonna die. So anyway, we've burst the storage tanks, contaminating God knows how much of the island of Yara in the process. But that ain't enough, because now the plan is to set fire to everything. Now, again, I am not a chemistry professor, and I know that Yelena isn't, and I'm fairly sure that Mama isn't either. So I'm certainly not the best placed person to give a lecture on what potentially might happen if you take a fictional chemical like the Vero and set it on fire. It may very well be that the act of introducing heat to the Viviro chemical compound will neutralise the toxins in the compound. Maybe. Don't know. None of us are chemistry professors. But it might make it worse. Again, don't know. None of us are chemistry professors. All I do know is that there are all sorts of different ways that introducing heat to a chemical compound can make it even more lethal. Just as one example, I can quite clearly remember that when I was a radio operator in the Royal Navy, we were instructed that in the event of a fire in the main communications office, the first thing you try to do is fight the fire, but if the fire makes it into the radio racks, you just get out and you shut and seal the doors behind you and wait for somebody with breathing apparatus and protective gear to turn up and take over the firefighting effort. Because the kind of shit that was inside those radio racks did not react nicely with fire. And if you got so much as 1 part in a million of it inside your lungs, you were dead. Speaking as a non-chemical professor, I think the general rule of thumb best observed when dealing with potentially dangerous chemicals is if you don't know what's going to happen to it if you fuck with it, then don't fuck with it.
Yelena, it's Danny. I've plugged you in. Time to do your thing.
Muy bien. Let's melt this fucker.
Yep, we're all gonna die. Oh, hang on. I must show you this bit because it's great. So I climb into the back of the Jeep where there's a nice, conveniently mounted 50 cal machine gun. I start lighting up the bad guy who's giving Chorizo a hard time. McKay's going banzai over the radio, threatening to fire everybody if they don't get the situation under control. And as I'm dealing with the bad guys to the front, a light scout helicopter pops up from behind. But that's alright, I've got a 50 caliber machine gun, which is doing absolutely nothing to an unarmoured aircraft that doesn't have a single piece of metal on it thicker than 1 millimetre of aluminium. Really? Yes, really. But that's not the best part. I duck into cover, heal my wounds. I've switched to the AKM, which is chambered in 7.62 by 39mm, and half a magazine shoots the helicopter down. Jingles, I thought you said you were going to cut this game some slack today. I mean, seriously, come on! I may have spoken hastily. I honestly was prepared to give the game the benefit of the doubt. But, come on! Far Cry, what are you doing? It's like it's being willfully stupid. Surely no game developers can be this stupid by accident. They must be doing it on purpose.
I'll bankrupt you in your dumb country, you and your backpacked slot-nosed kids!
You know, introducing heat into something as mundane as your hallway carpet will generate a chemical reaction that produces a toxic byproduct that will kill you. We call it smoke. And that's just when you set fire to a fucking carpet.
You weak backpack! Say adios for the rest of your life!
Danny, you did it. We did it. All we needed was a little luck.
Danny, you did it. I'm proud of you. And Tigre would have been too. We have destroyed the only place on this island where they produce the poison they spray on the tobacco fields in the west.
After they use up the poison,
No more wonder drug.
Bunny, you're not going to believe it, but before we hit McKay at the port, I got a special request from Clara. And she's got a point.
didn't see that coming.
We have an opportunity to do something bigger.
Bigger than poisoning half of the island in the name of freedom and democracy? Well, I gotta be honest, I thought I'd had my fill of genocide for the day, but fuck it, deal me in.
If we destroy Castillo's oil reserves in El Este right now, it will choke his army of fuel across the island.
I like the sound of that.
Go hit the big red tanks all over La Jolla. Our guerrillas will help you. I sent them pics of what to target.
Gracias, comadre.
Oh yeah, and you thought I was joking. Yeah, join us in the next episode where we compound the ecological and humanitarian disaster that we've just inflicted on the island by setting fire to a whole bunch of massive fuel oil dumps. So, join us in the next episode where I'm sure the survivors of the Great McKay Chemical Plant Fire and Explosion of 2022 are going to get finished off by the Great McKay Oil Terminal Explosion of 2022. A second man-made disaster that pumped millions of tons of burning crude oil into the seas around the island of Yara, killing off the fishing industry for generations to come, and ensuring that anybody who didn't die in the McKay chemical plant leak and explosion is going to get finished off, if not by the clouds of toxic oil fumes, then by the lung cancer that they're going to contract as a direct result. Libertad and La Morale, bringing freedom to the oppressed peoples of Yara, one ecological and humanitarian catastrophe at a time. Take care, folks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you next time.